Imagine standing in the vast rust-red desert of Namibia, near a place called the Caprivi Strip. To your north, a seemingly endless straight line of cut vegetation stretches to the horizon, a brutal scar across the natural landscape. This is the border with Angola. Now, transport yourself to a different continent, to the lush rolling hills of the Belgium-Luxembourg border. Here the line meanders like a snake, following the twists of a river. Then the crest of a hill, bending around ancient forests and old stone fences. One border is a geometric abstraction, imposed from above. The other is an organic creation, grown from the ground up. This stark contrast is the great paradox of our world map. Why are some borders elegant, natural curves, while others are the brutal, straight lines of a ruler? The answer lies in a fundamental clash between two ways of seeing the world, one shaped by centuries of local history, and the other drawn in distant conference rooms by people who had never set foot on the land they were dividing. To understand this paradox, we must first define the two types of borders. Organic borders, like those in much of Europe and South Asia, are often jagged and complex because they are dictated by geography. They follow natural, defensible features: the winding course of a river, the rugged crest of a mountain range, the edge of a dense forest. These borders evolved slowly over time, often reflecting the limits of local feudal control, the reach of a specific dialect, or the legacy of 1,000 small wars and treaties. They are fingerprints on the map, unique and messy. In contrast, the straight line, or geometric, border is a product of the age of exploration and empire. It reflects a bureaucratic, top-down mindset. It says, this territory is unknown or deemed empty to us, so we will divide it efficiently. Using the clean logic of latitude and longitude, this approach treated land as a blank canvas, ignoring the intricate human and ecological tapestries already upon it. The most dramatic and consequential imposition of straight lines occurred during the scramble for Africa. In 1884, the major European powers convened the Berlin Conference, essentially a meeting to decide how to carve up a continent with minimal conflict between themselves. With breathtaking arrogance, they drew lines on maps that bore no relation to the realities on the ground. They sliced through ancient kingdoms, homelands of ethnic groups, and sacred lands, creating impossible countries. The border between Sudan and Egypt, a straight line. Between Chad and Libya, a straight line. The consequences were, and are, catastrophic. These arbitrary borders forced hundreds of distinct ethnic groups into artificial states, while dividing others across multiple new countries, creating a recipe for enduring ethnic tension, civil war, and dysfunctional governance that continues to haunt the continent. The straight line was a tool of control and convenience for the colonizers, but a source of perpetual crisis for the colonized. This practice of long-distance cartography was not confined to Africa. In the Middle East, during the First World War, two diplomats, Britain's Sir Mark Sykes and France's François-Georges Aspicot, secretly drew a line across the map of the Ottoman Empire. The Sykes-Picot Agreement, as it became known, created the modern states of Iraq, Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon, with little regard for the region's complex, tribal, religious, and ethnic landscape. The straight lines of the desert were meant to delineate spheres of influence, but they became the brittle borders of new nations, often pitting Shiite, Sunni, and Kurd against one another within the same arbitrary box. The conflict and instability that have defined the region for a century are, in many ways, the direct legacy of those lines drawn in a London office. But the straight line paradox also played out in the New World, the border between the United States and Canada. Along the 49th parallel is a classic example of a geometric border, established by the Oregon Treaty of 1846. Unlike the African and Middle Eastern examples, this line was largely drawn across territories that were sparsely populated by the colonial powers, though it too disregarded the presence and territories of indigenous nations. The key difference in outcome, however, lies in what happened next. Both the US and Canada were eventually able to project their power and establish a unified national identity over these imposed lines, effectively subsuming the geometric border into a functioning state system. Yet, even here, the legacy is complex. The border famously slices through the tiny island of Point Roberts, Wa, and the northwest angle in Minnesota, creating American exclaves accessible only through Canada. Quirky, living reminders of the arbitrary nature of the line. So, what is the ultimate legacy of the straight line? The contrast is stark. Organic borders, born of geography and local history, tend to be more stable and accepted by the populations that live along them. They represent a slow, negotiated settlement between people and place. The imposed straight line, however, is a symbol of external power and often profound ignorance. It creates what political geographers call antecedent boundaries, lines drawn before a cohesive society exists within them. These borders become a primary source of identity-based conflict, as the state's arbitrary shape constantly grates against the deeper, older identities of the people it contains. They are a testament to the fact that when you try to simplify the beautiful complexity of human geography with a ruler, you create problems that can last for centuries. The straight lines on our maps are not signs of order. They are often scars of division, reminding us that the world cannot be understood, let alone ruled, from a distant drawing board.